In today's chess video, I'm going to show you some absolutely amazing opening traps in the Sicilian Defense. One of the most popular openings in chess, and yes, a favorite of Magnus Carlsen and Garry Kasparov. So let's jump straight into our first deadly trap, which is set up by White in the open Sicilian. The game starts with the usual exchanges, takes, takes, and Black immediately attacks the central pawn. Knight to c3 defends it, and now Black strikes back with a knight attack, entering what we commonly call the Sveshnikov variation. White pushes forward aggressively. He's ready to shake Black's entire position, forcing Black to eventually give up this very important bishop. To stop a dangerous check, Black plays d6. Now, the main line here is bishop to g5, a move you'll see all the time at the grandmaster level. But White has something much more tricky in mind. Instead of bishop g5, White jumps in with his other knight. And suddenly, there's a huge threat on the board. Knight c7 check, forking the king and the rook. Black has to respond, and fast. The most natural reaction is to exchange the knights. Then Black retreats his knight to safety. And now, White plays a very strong move, c4. At this point, Black had simple options: move the knight away, develop the bishop, and castle kingside. But this knight was making Black extremely uncomfortable. So Black decides to push a6. And this is exactly what White was waiting for. White unleashes the killer move, queen to a4. Now look at the problem. If Black captures the knight, the rook is gone. White is also threatening a deadly discovered check. So Black tries to block the danger by bringing his bishop in between. But this is a huge blunder, because now comes the final, beautiful move, knight to d6. Smothered checkmate. Game over. Okay, now our next deadly trap comes from the Sicilian dragon variation. The game begins normally. Knight to f3, d6, and White immediately strikes with d4. Takes, takes. And as usual, Black develops the knight, attacking the pawn. White calmly defends it. Now at this moment, Black has two very popular choices. The first one is a 6, which leads to the knight-off variation, stopping White's knights from jumping in. But today, we're focusing on the other main move, g6. This is the Sicilian dragon. And this is where White sets a beautiful trap. White plays f4. This is known as the 11-fish attack. Now listen carefully. If Black is not alert here and plays the natural-looking move bishop to g7, he's already in trouble. Let me show you why. White immediately pushes e5, attacking the knight. Even if Black captures, White simply takes back. And now suddenly, Black has a serious problem. What does he do with this knight? Let's look at the options. Going back to g8 makes no sense. It's just a wasted move and kills development. So realistically, Black has two main choices, knight to g4 or d5. Let's look at them one by one. First, knight to g4. And now, White unleashes this deadly bishop check. Black cannot block with the bishop or pawn because then the knight is hanging. And if Black tries to block with the knight, after the exchanges, Black ends up losing his rook. Therefore, blocking with the bishop or knight isn't a good option. What else can be done? He can simply move away his king, right? Well, Black tried that but failed because White has a killer move here. Can you find it? Well, it's the brutal knight e6 check. He can't move his king here, and if he takes the knight, then this sweetie is gone. Now let's see what happens if he goes to d5. This time, the queen is supporting this knight. Now here again, White goes bishop b5 check. Again, Black can't block with the knight or bishop, because this prevents the queen from defending this knight. Getting the knight here also results in the similar fork as we saw earlier. But he can play king f8, and now this check won't work because the queen is blocked off. But don't worry. What you can do here is simply castle. Just look at this position. The rook is eyeing down the king. He cannot castle. The queen can attack from here. The bishop can come out. All these pieces are beautifully placed. So all in all, this is a fantastic game to play as white. Moving on to our third trap. This one comes from the Alapin variation. Black responds with the most popular move here, d5, offering a pawn exchange in the center. White politely says, "No thank you," and simply pushes the pawn forward. Black develops the bishop, preparing to move this pawn later by first breaking out of the pawn chain. Now White decides it's time to take full control of the center. Black captures. White captures back. At this point, Black has many solid options, but instead, he gets greedy. Black comes up with the idea of winning a free pawn. First, he takes the knight. Then, he throws in a check. And finally, he grabs the pawn on a2. Looks good for Black, but this greed is about to cost him the game. Here's the key moment. White plays bishop to c3. This single move adds a defender and activates the attack at the same time. And now, no matter what Black plays, White simply attacks with the rook. The queen is completely trapped. There are no escape squares, no tricks, no counterplay. The Black queen is lost. A perfect example of how greed gets punished in chess. Moving on to our fourth trap. Here, White plays the Smith-Morra Gambit, sacrificing a pawn to open up his game. Then we see a few normal development moves from both sides. And after bishop c4, we reach a critical point in the game. The two most popular responses by Black are e6 and knight to f6. Here let's see when Black plays knight f6, a very natural development move. And now, White starts setting up his trap with the sneaky move e5. If he takes with the pawn, then we have the queen exchange. And now, if he takes with the knight, then he has to deal with these multiple attacks on the queen side. And if he takes with the king, then his king side is in danger. Therefore, in this position, Black says, "Forget it, let me just reduce the pressure by exchanging the knights first." But by doing this, he dug his own grave. Can you guess what White played here? Yes, he went for the bishop sacrifice. The king is forced to move away from his partner and ultimately the queen is lost. So that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this deadly Sicilian traps. Let me know in the comments which trap was your favorite. Hit like if you learned something new and subscribe for more powerful chess content. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep playing sharp.